Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the first session in our three-part series, Employability, Managing Your Future Fit Career. I'm Inga Fisher, Human Resources, REGENT Business School. Understanding the job hunting process in the new world of work, creating a strong CV, writing a good covering letter, and interviewing well are how you will show off your employability skills to potential employers. This series of webinars will give you the practical tools to do so. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Cindy Norcott, who will present the first in our Future Fit series, Increasing Your Employability by Building Your Personal Brand and Networking. Cindy has partnered with us to present this three-part series. Cindy is a motivational speaker, business coach, and the CEO of the award-winning agencies Pro Appointments and Pro Talent. She's the author of a best-selling business book, How to Be Unstoppable. Cindy is also the founder of the Robin Hood Foundation and has won many awards for her entrepreneurial abilities. So welcome, Cindy. Thank you for agreeing to present the first session of Building Your Network and Building Your Personal Brand. We look forward to learning some tips for the future. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you so much, Inga. It's really, really wonderful to be here today to share some thoughts with your delegates and to represent REGENT Business School. So I'm really, really excited to talk on something that I'm absolutely passionate about, and that's two things, branding and networking. Now, I have to tell you, I've been running my own recruitment agency for the last 27 years, and prior to that, I actually worked at two other agencies. So I've been working with job seekers literally for 30 years. And I think now more than ever is the time where we really, really need to hone our skills on personal branding and networking, because the job market is a lot harder than it's ever been before. But I want to take you back to maybe my start in the job market. Many, many years ago, I remember walking into agencies in those days with friends with no appointment, dropping off a CV and wondering why I wasn't getting much response. Anyway, but a couple of years later, I was running my own business and I was so fortunate to get the services of a mentor. His name was Andrew, and one of the best pieces of advice he gave me was build two brands, build one for your business and build one for yourself. Now, some of you might say, well, Cindy, it's not really necessary, you see, because I work in a corporate and I actually provide a service internally in my company. I don't have to network with other people. But the thing is, I'm going to hopefully convince you through this next hour how important it is for you to build your personal brand. I think I'm indifferent. Most people don't have an opinion on me either way. Everybody has an opinion of you. If you want to work out what your brand is, what about doing a little bit of an audit, going to 5, 6, 7 people who you respect and ask them to be honest? How would they describe you in 5 words? Is there congruency between the different people that you ask, or are they all saying different things about you? I think it's so important to come up with, these are things that I am. They're not things that I'm faking. They're not things I'm bluffing about, but this is essentially who I am. So it's not a fake version of yourself. It's you on your best day. It's you putting your best foot forward. So if we were to say, I run a charity, I run a business. So people often use similar words, dynamic, ethical, bubbly, driven, those words come up all the time. So if I were to describe myself as that, I think people would say that sounds like you. So it's so important. We are all looking for jobs, we're looking for promotions, we're looking for opportunities in a very, very crowded market. So we have to differentiate ourselves. And that's the important thing about a brand. Imagine, I think a lot of us have been into pharmacies lately. There's so many viruses going around, never mind COVID, but everything else. So you go there and you get a script from your doctor. You know how often they ask you, would you like this or would you like the generic? Now, the generic is a lot cheaper. But if you think about it, isn't it crazy? Like, how many of us go, okay, we'll take the generic because it's cheaper. But so often we say, no, we'll go for the brand. Why? Because it's trusted. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to become a known source for. I am the best bookkeeper in Durban. I am really known as a specialist recruiter. What are you known for? So are you the generic, or are you a well-known brand? Let's think about it in two different terms. A car. If you were a car, would you be the Rolls-Royce or Mercedes? Or would you be a little panel-beated, rusty version of a 1970s car that's out of fashion? Hopefully you are a brand that you aspire to be. And if you think about it, everybody's looking for an aspirational brand. So they're looking for candidates, you know, if you think about it, they're looking for candidates that are basically aspirational. They go, I would love this person to be part of my team. And here's a question: when we hire people, you know, a question I ask all the time: how will this new hire add to the DNA of our team? So what are they bringing that isn't already there? I'm looking for something different. I'm looking for value, and I'm looking for something extra that isn't already in my team. So if somebody comes across as being average, mediocre, nice, sweet, but nothing X-factory, I'm not going to take them. I'm going to look for somebody who's got something that stands out. So we want to stand out in this overtraded market. So your brand isn't what you say you are. It's what people tell their friends about you when you're not in the room. So what are people saying about you when you aren't in the room? It's quite an important question. So for me, it's not about anything fake. It's about authenticity. It's who you really are at your best. Think of the 5 words you would like to describe you on your best day. And then, are you exhibiting that behavior all the time? Or is it just something you only put on for interviews? Because that's another thing we as recruiters do. We do lots of background checking. Some people are so good at being interviewed, and that's where it stops. Everything else is downhill from there. You don't want to be that person. So I think it's so important. How do you make people feel when they deal with you? Do they feel that you care? Do they feel, gosh, I can trust this person? This person is credible. This person's knowledgeable, professional, reliable. People are looking for those qualities. But people judge you by the little things. Well, I'll give you an example. I'll have somebody send their CV through, and the word CV is short for curriculum vitae. And then people try and write it out, and then they don't spell it well. So that's an immediate red flag. Such a silly little thing, but people might be judging you on those. I remember somebody sent me their CV recently, and it said they spoke about how professional they are, except that they didn't spell the word professional right. So all I could see was an unprofessional word, if that makes sense. So just be careful. They'll judge you by your dress code. So you might go into an accounting firm and you're dressed all trendy, but it's maybe a conservative company, and they're looking at you and they're thinking, that's not how we dress here. Or you might do it the other way around. You go to an ad agency and you're dressed conservatively, and they're all trendy and relaxed and wearing their board shorts, and and you don't fit in. So people will judge you by those little things. Your CV. I've so often had people, I'll give you an example of where people go wrong, even in the beginning. So you don't have a second chance to make a first impression. Sometimes we have candidates doing things and they ruin their brand instantly. But firstly, they'll apply for every single job out there, and you see this name popping up again and again and again, and they are indiscriminate. We have some people who will send one CV, one email to 30 or 40 recruiters or companies, not even a hi, how are you? It's not personal, it's not addressed to anyone, it's just a CV. So it just shows you some people are not really putting in much effort into their brand. They don't think it matters, but it actually does. If somebody emails me and they say, listen, this is the spec, or this is the position that I'm applying for, this is why I want the role, and this is why I think I'm going to be great. They address it to me, and they just show some interest in the role. I will spend a lot more time looking at their CV, and I will also spend a lot more time trying to see how I can help that person, because I think, gosh, they've put in such an effort. I need to try and see how I can help them. People judge you by other things as well. You go for an interview, it's your body language. It's your tone. The one thing I always say is the worst thing you could ever say is when somebody says, what job would you like? To say, any job. Nobody wants candidates who are desperate or who don't know what they want. I love it when I interview somebody and they say, this is the role I want, and these are the reasons why. And I think, yay, I'm meeting somebody who's passionate, who's intentional, and who's very, very clear and focused on what they want. That's part of their brand. So you're also being judged. Your brand is your work you deliver. So what are you delivering every single day? Some people think that, you know, it's about impressing people for the interview in the first 3 months, and then it's a downhill slide into mediocrity. Not at all. The way I see it is when we have a job, the customer is interviewing us every single time we do business with them. So imagine if every day you had a report of how, if we interviewed you the whole day, how did you perform? And was it a positive, or was it average, or was it negative? It's how you say things and what you say. I know so many people who have built terrible brands or destroyed their brands for speaking out of turn, for sending emails in anger, for being inappropriate in the workplace as well. You know, even just the tone of an email that you send out can actually ruin your brand. So for me, I think a few things. If you're sending off your CV, it's the writing you use, it's how you address the person, it's responding to which position. And here's the thing, for me as a recruiter, within 6 seconds, I normally have made a decision about that person's CV. Isn't that insane? 6 seconds. So imagine if all I'm seeing in 6 seconds is a bunch of mistakes, or it's badly laid out. And it's funny, I was just talking to Inga before the start of the webinar, but I'll have some people who'll send a font that's and a style of CV that's from 1970s, and then they've got a selfie posed pouting in the bathroom. You know, those are not professional photos. That's not a professional CV. And it's kind of that dated approach. You might not realize it, but you might be wondering, why is nobody coming back to me? Or I get those scanned CVs, but it's a copy of a copy of a copy that is so hard to read, or it's scanned upside down. And I know it's little things, but sometimes we just don't understand that we might be hampering our chances of being employed by something so small as that. So make sure it's free from errors. I think that's so important. Get somebody to spell check your CV for you, or to do a grammatical check for you. And I think the most important, to keep it nice and short, you want it to be professional, concise. If people only have a few seconds to judge your CV, you don't want them going through page after page after page. The one time I interviewed this young lady, she was 19, and she had a 19-page CV. Isn't that insane? If you're trying to send out too much information. So much of what was on her CV and her certificates were completely irrelevant. And I remember she once raised about 20 Rand or something for Feed the Babies. And I think if that's your greatest achievement, you need to hide it, because that's not selling you. That's par for the course. That's not necessarily a huge positive to say, wow, I'm so proud of this thing. You only put the things that you're really proud of on your CV. And then, you know, when you go for the interview, your brand again, you're being judged in the first 30 seconds. People are going, this person looks like they could fit our brand. This person looks professional. This person looks trustworthy. So it's so important. So I think you need to be on time. You need to know where you're going, know who's interviewing you. It's amazing how sometimes one of the questions that people ask a candidate in the interview is, what do you know about our role and what do you know about the company? And the candidate goes, what do you people do? I don't even know what you do. With internet, we can Google anything these days. Do the research. It's so important to do that. And I think it's so important to have that elevator pitch. What sets you apart? You know, well, I'm a branding professional. You know what I'm doing? I've just finished my MBA, and my goal is to get into a senior management position where I can combine my people skills and my financial skills in a role that's not just operational, but also strategic. You know, something like that, something where you could show that you actually have an idea of where you're going in life or where you want to go. One of the things that I've seen in the last year that has been almost a deal breaker for so many candidates, and this relates to their brand, is Zoom. They'll go for an interview on Zoom, and what they haven't done is they haven't prepared. So they don't know how Zoom works. They don't know where to look. And you know what happens is the employer is judging you in the first few minutes. Now, if you'd walked into an office, you know how to walk into an office, you'd walk in, you'd greet the person, and you'd create a great first impression. But now what's happening is we've got people, there's dogs barking in the background, there's children crying, they don't know where to look. They go, am I on, am I not, you know, and before you know it, the employer has lost interest. So just if you are going to be going for Zoom interviews, make sure the lighting's decent, make sure you know that you can make eye contact, dress the part. Just because it's in Zoom, it doesn't mean that you can look like you've just come out of bed, look the part, and really look confident. You know, I know it might not be a normal way of doing things, but a lot of employers, I'm finding, they're not even meeting applicants in person at all. So that's quite frustrating. So looking at your brand, we need to focus on our strengths. I remember years and years ago, learning about this American coach who only coached people who earned $1 million or more per year at the time. And his whole philosophy was he only helped people work on their strengths. His whole focus was your strengths are what make you. Each one of us has X factors. We've got things that we are so good at that when we do them, we go, oh my gosh, why doesn't everybody else know how to do that like I do? When we do the stuff that we really, really are good at, time flies. We get into flow and we go, oh my gosh, this is fun. And we always wonder, like people say to us, you know, isn't that hard? And we go, no, this is the easiest thing. Those are the magical things. But you know what a lot of people do? They think, okay, I need to be balanced, especially as a brand. So I need to work on my weaknesses. So I'll give you an example. I'm very bubbly. I love to be with people. I'm confident, but I'm not very good on Excel. Now, I could spend ages and ages and ages trying to work on that weakness. And then all I would do is become average on Excel. But then I'm not honing my strengths, my best strength. So I think it's so important to work out what is my X factor? What is my gift to the world? I think that's so, so important. Another thing is to be associated with other positive brands. So for instance, you know, if I look at your social media, are you networking? Are you friends? Are you spending time with other brands that are positive, that are not detracting from your beautiful brand? I think that's so, so important. And then what are we trying to do with a brand? We're trying to build a reputation. But what is a reputation? I love the saying, a reputation is repeated acts of credibility. And that's what employers are looking when they hire. They're looking for somebody who always shows up, who always delivers, who's reliable, who's steady, who's consistent, you know, who's a consistent achiever. And in recruitment, we've got a saying, past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So we as recruiters are looking for patterns. So if every job you've left after a year retrenched every time, we have to then say, well, maybe you weren't just unlucky. Maybe you were the bottom 10%. Not to say that people who have been retrenched of late have been the worst performers. A lot of companies have retrenched most of their staff, if not all their staff. But the thing is, when somebody says, you know, I hated my boss, next job, I hated my boss, next job, I hated my boss, we start seeing a pattern. So I think people don't want to hire people who are troublemakers. So make sure your brand is somebody who's harmonious, who's easygoing, who's somebody who gets on and does the job well and who has a balance. Even if you did have a difficult boss, you go, you know, there was a difficult boss, a difficult situation, but I learned so much from that experience. I think that's so important. But now a lot of people focus on their reputation, but not on their integrity. So the reputation is what people think you are, but your integrity is who you are when you think nobody's watching you. And that is seen through all your experience. So a lot of people don't realize, but they're building their brand from school, from varsity. When I interview young people, often we are phoning an old teacher, the principal, somebody that they worked for part-time, somebody who was a lecturer at tech or varsity or college. So we're asking those questions. So some people have this theory, and I know a lot of people have this theory, and I really don't agree with it. You know, when you study at tertiary, all you need is 50%, it's a pass. More than that is wasted effort. But if you think about it, if you're building your brand and you're studying not just to get the piece of paper, but to learn as much as possible, you don't want to be that 50%er. So we as recruiters, we love to see, you know, transcripts from varsity and colleges and that, seeing people's results and making sure that they're above average, because we're trying to find the best talent, people who have stood out. And you know what we want when we interview? We want achievers. So how do we know if you're an achiever? You will have a history of achieving. You will have a history of being above other people, so that you have a consistent, literally pathway that's taken you to this point. So if you look at your brand, your CV is a big part of that brand. It's your advert. So you are emailing that advert out there. And if nobody's coming back to you, maybe there's something wrong with your advert, or maybe you're sending it in the wrong places, or maybe you just haven't differentiated yourself enough. And we need to talk about that. So your CV records everything that you're proud of. It's your chance to like toot your own horn. It's your achievements, it's your accomplishments, it's your awards, it's everything that you're proud of. It's a history of your life up until that point in time. But some people haven't really thought about it. So it's literally like giving a 3-year-old, imagine you had a 3-year-old sitting on your lap and you're driving your car. It's saying to the 3-year-old, just drive, we're going, it's no problem. It's a lot of people don't have brand control, and they're going everywhere. So there's no thought, there's no intention when it comes to their social media, their CV, the way they dress, the way they operate every single day. You are being interviewed every single day, whether you know it or not. And every action you take is either building your brand or destroying your brand. Nothing's keeping you in the middle. So you think about it, that day where you might be tired, you've had a long weekend and you come into work on a Monday and you don't feel like it, or that Friday where you decide, you know what, I'm not in the mood for work. You're being judged all along those ways. So it's so important to be intentional. You don't want a confused brand. You don't want to be like people to go, I don't know what to expect. Some days this person's great, some days they're not. You want to be able to have those 5 words that describe you, and they're consistently there throughout. And we have to stand out in a market where it's overcrowded. So some people, when everybody's emailing their CVs, you might be doing a video. I know a lot of employers at the moment who are doing video interviews. They're asking people to answer 3 or 4 questions and to send it on a little WhatsApp video. Do you know how many candidates it takes them a week to do that? And they lose out. It's such an easy thing. Grab your phone, just answer it, send it off. And so many people aren't doing that. So these are little tests along the way. Sometimes we have clients who say, we need the person to do a little typing test or computer test or a skills test. And then the candidate goes, oh, I didn't bring my glasses, or my nails are too long, believe it or not. And then they leave. And that was their golden opportunity missed. And remember, you're being judged for every little step along the way. So I think another important thing is hiring managers are looking to hire people that fit into the culture of the organization. So as I said earlier, if it's an ad agency, you're going to focus on that. If it's a conservative company, dress more conservatively. You want to brand yourself as an expert. You want to hopefully be seen as a specialist. Maybe not now, maybe that's not where you are yet, but that's where you want to be. So it's not just about the interviewing and the job hunting. It's also how you approach your job every day. Sign your name on your work. Don't stop until you're proud. Be a volunteer. Be that person who goes the extra mile. And every day do something that you're not paid for, because those things will make you a standout employee. And let me tell you what employers want. They want enthusiasm. They want energy. They want humble attitudes. They want teachability. They want team players. And they want people who say, that's no problem. What they don't want is people who say, that's not my job. They want people who are saying, I'm here, I've shown up, and I'm here to deliver. And I think that's so important. And to ask yourself every day, what value have I added to the company? Did I add value today? Or was I've got a teenage daughter, and she either says you're a team cost or a team carry. You don't want to be a team cost. Every day you want to be able to have carried someone in the team. So we live in a world, we're surrounded by brands. If you think about it, we drive along, we go into the shops, there's just such a war for attention. But for hiring managers, for entrepreneurs, for business owners, for recruiters, there's also a war for attention. Most positions have done research, average of 250 people are applying for one job. Please don't let that get you down, because I know a lot of people say, what's my chances? Well, you know what, we've got to believe in ourselves. It's crazy. So here's a few questions as well, a few comments on branding. People will pay more for that aspirational brand. And when we go out there, we want to get paid the highest possible salary. We don't want to go in at the bottom and say we're the cheapest. So we never ever want to position ourselves as the cheapest or I'll go in lowest. We want to be positioning ourselves as somebody who is sought after and adding value. And remember, past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Hopefully your past referees are going to say, this person is awesome. And the one telltale question we ask in references is, would you re-employ this person? And most people, it's quite frightening how they go, they were fantastic. Then they go, well, actually not really. So in that question, that tells us, so you want to always leave a job. And you've just done such a good job, not just of branding yourself, but of delivering how you branded yourself. that employer says, absolutely, I would definitely re-employ this person. So I think it's so important, just to focus on growing your brand every single day, adding to your CV, adding to your brand equity out there in the marketplace as well. There's a book called Purple Cow by Seth Godin, and it's a really cool book. It's easy to read, it's small, but basically he's driving with his child on a train. He's on a train trip from England to France. And as they're driving, they're now into France, and they see the cows. And his daughter goes, "Dad, this is amazing. There's a beautiful brown cow, and there's another one." And eventually they stop seeing the cows because all they see is cows. They were interesting in the beginning. And then his concept is, imagine if there was a purple cow. We'd all stand out and say, "Wow, that's fantastic. That's a purple cow." But let's be honest, the market's changing. Imagine if there were all brown cows and you wanted to stand out and you said, "I'll be the purple cow. I'll differentiate myself. I'll stand out." But as everyone else becomes purple, you might change your color and say, "I'll become a blue cow," because you don't want to just be like everybody else. Because if you are like everybody else, you're going to get what everybody else has got. And a lot of us don't want that. Consistency is also so important. How are you on Friday night? How do you present on Saturday or on Sunday if you go to church or a temple? How are you on Monday? How are you in the staff meeting? Is there congruence? Do I see consistency in what you do? Because that is so, so important. It's funny how people judge you on the little things. A few years ago, I went on a flight to Zimbabwe, and we were told we had to wait for several hours because there were engine troubles. As we got into the plane and we sat down, I remember the seat of my chair. It wasn't bolted in, and then the seatbelt didn't work. And I sat there thinking, "Oh my gosh, now I'm really, really worried about the engine." So people worry. People are judging you by those little things. So you go into work, you've got a bad hair day. You're just not playing the part. You're not looking the part. You're not delivering, and people are judging you by that. So it's so important to just keep having that consistency about you. So we also need to look at our brand online. We've spoken about just the way you look, the way you deliver, the way, your whole history. But a lot of people are using online as a really, really cool place to start looking for work. So let's ask you, what platforms are you on online? To me, as a job seeker, the most valuable one, in my opinion, would be LinkedIn. So do you have a LinkedIn profile? I know so many people say, "I don't know how to work LinkedIn." Let me tell you, it wouldn't take more than an hour to learn. So don't let something like, "I don't know how to work LinkedIn," or "I don't know how to work Zoom," be a deal breaker for you, because you might be losing out on so many opportunities. So have you got a good LinkedIn profile? Have you updated it? Have you Googled yourself lately? Do you know that 43% of employers are using Google search to check out candidates? So when somebody's Googling you, what are they finding out about you? Or even worse, is there nothing? There's just no trace. You're a ghost. I think that's quite important. So your LinkedIn, you put down your achievements, try and get people to give you testimonials and referrals, and recommend you as much as possible. I think it's so important. And it's so funny for me, even if you are busy and you're not necessarily looking for a job, but you know that you should be active on LinkedIn, because that's where a lot of employers are actually going to find talent. What you could say is, every week I will put in 40 minutes. I'll just do a post or two. I'll write the odd blog article. I will comment on other people's posts. And I think that's quite important. Funny thing, a few years ago, I had a lady approach me and she said, "Do you know what your problem is?" And I said, What is it? And she said, "You're a shameless self-promoter." And I said, "Thank you." And I actually hosted an event and I taught people the subtle art of shameless self-promotion. The thing is, nobody else is promoting us. We've got to do it ourselves. So you've actually got to become well-versed in that art. If you are a job seeker, every single week, every day, you should be doing something to grow your brand. So I'll give you an example. I own a business. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a business coach. I head up a charity. I have a lot of things I do every single day, but every day I work on my brand. Every day I work on my network and on my brand. And I'll get to the networking now. But I go, what can I do today to enhance my brand? Now, I don't know about you, but we're all on social media platforms. And I've been quite perturbed in the last year. It's been really tough for a lot of people, but some people have literally destroyed their brands by constant negativity. And it's been a real problem, constant negativity. So what I would encourage you to do is just to focus on what are you saying that's positive, enthusiastic, and encouraging. And I've had so much feedback from people recently saying, you know, I see you all over on social media and everything you do is so positive. And I don't always feel entirely positive. Sometimes I have difficult days, but I'm putting myself out there in a positive manner. And you know what it's doing? It's inspiring people, because so many people are out there putting negative stuff. They're putting mundane stuff. They're putting things that are not enhancing their brands. They're not adding value to the world. So maybe do a little check on your social media. If an employer, a prospective employer, was to actually say to you, I would like to check out all your social media, what would they see? How would they judge you? And is it positive? So when I was telling you about, when I was younger, I was working with a mentor and he said, build 2 brands. He also said to me, position yourself that you stand out in the top 1%. Geez, that's hard to do, isn't it? Well, maybe not really. His piece of advice was, if you studied for an hour a day for 5 years, you would be the KZN expert. Can you do that? Can you be the KZN expert in your area, in your company? Could you devote yourself every day to saying, you know what, for the next month, I'm going to learn a little bit every single day about this company. Yes, I'm new here, but I want to know the answers to every FAQ, frequently asked question. I'm going to scour the website. I'm going to look at the literature so that I'm an expert in this company, so that when people ask me, I know the answers. Isn't it amazing? Such simple little things. I remember my mentor saying, write a book. I wrote a book. And it's funny, but you write a book and suddenly people start thinking that you're a somebody. Isn't that crazy? I started a charity foundation, not as a branding exercise, because it's something I really, really am passionate about. But you can't believe the difference it's done to my brand. Are you associated with a charity? What is a cause close to your heart? Could you get involved? Now, the funny thing is, I've had so many people, and this is kind of hinging on the networking, who have been unemployed, who've recently lost jobs, or, you know, taking a break. And then they say, can I join your charity? Can I help volunteer? But you know what they're doing? They're growing their network. They're building relationships. And I've seen people getting employed through our connections because they know somebody and somebody said, oh, I see an opportunity. But so many people say, oh no, I can't afford it. I can't afford the petrol. I don't want to go out there. I don't want to, you know, I'm at home and it's so hard for me. But the thing is, you've got to be seen, you've got to be liked, you've got to be involved. Otherwise, you are just a best kept secret at home. And you are fighting against other people who really, really, really want that job as much as you do. So you've got to stand out. And it might just be the fact that, gosh, you know, you've done so many volunteer hours. Or, gosh, you were a leader there. Or, that's interesting. You were an achiever in sport. You need something that that can make you stand out. So I think that's so important. Another thing that I learned at a very young age was, if you want to stand out and build a brand, look for opportunities to speak. How can you become a speaker? Could you host webinars? Could you say to your company that you're in, or, you know, or start your own video, start your own blog, use your voice. And a lot of people, what they don't do is they don't have their own website. They think it's something for a company, or it's something for people who are important, or, you know, like famous people. But it's becoming quite normal for people to say, this is my website. Have a look at my personal website. It's the things that define me. It's the things I'm proud of. I write about the things and I post about the things that I'm interested in. I think that's so, so important. Over the years, I've attended networking functions, sometimes up to 20 functions in a month, just going out there, getting connected, getting seen, being liked. And I love that saying, work until you no longer have to introduce yourself. I think it's such a powerful statement. Are you getting out there? Are you working the network? Now, some of you might say, Cindy, are you crazy? There's a pandemic. But there's still so many online opportunities where you can be part of these online webinars. I personally host one every single month for free. My company hosts them. Regent's got this amazing series. Connect with people. I think that's so, so important. But also just remember that it's so important to build a brand. But if it's the wrong brand, it might be too hard to uphold. It might be something that's not really you. Or what if you fall from grace? people do not like a fallen hero. So I think it's so important to have a brand that is easy to maintain because it is who you are. We don't like fallen heroes. We don't like incongruence, and we don't like somebody who positioned themselves there and then they reveal themselves to be there. That gap is not where a lot of forgiveness sits. And why do we want a brand? We want people to know they can trust us. And I think that's so, so important. And then when we've got a brand and we've got relationships with people, when things go wrong, then we've got that reservoir of trust with those people. So I think it's so, so important to become the go-to person. Become that person that people come to you and say, do you know who? Even though you're not necessarily benefiting, what you're doing is you're doing 5-minute favors. These are awesome, awesome things to do. So you can become the go-to person, the referrer, the person that everyone goes, gosh, so-and-so has got such a great network. They're always referring people. They're always connecting people. And I think that's a powerful gift if you are able to do that. I remember a lady came up to me the one day and she said, I see you everywhere. Like it was a mistake. I said, thank you. That's my intention. I am seen because this is my intention. I want to build a brand of somebody who's out there and is, you know, who's actually actively making a difference in various spheres. I want people to think of me first. So let's be honest. If you are a social media digital marketing manager and somebody's thinking, I need to hire one, you want to be in that person's top 3 in their mind. Otherwise, if you're number 15, they'll never ever contact you. I think that's so important. So a few things. I think just polish up your social media profiles if you are serious about looking for a job. Are there areas where you maybe feel like some posts that you posted that were maybe from a few years ago that don't really reflect who you really are now, maybe in a more mature phase? There are some things that are career breakers. Can I tell you how many hiring managers, how many recruiters, how many employers fire people before they've even been interviewed? They go, okay, we're not going to interview this person because they've done the social media stalking and things that are considered deal breakers, hate speech, anything that's racist, sexist, anything that's not, it's not appropriate. People will frown upon that. Heavy partying, drug use, things like that, illegal or illicit content, it's an absolute no-no. Poor grammar. I remember I was looking for a recruiter and interviewed this lady and she came across really, really well. And then I went onto her social media and I could see that she used what I deemed gangster speak. You know, when you say dat, da, you are, and she didn't use proper words where everything. And then I could see that at night, it looked like she was drunk. She was writing funny little things. And then her grammar got worse and worse. And I was just like, I'm not hiring her. And I've done that many, many times. I've looked at people and gone, oh my gosh, what they're showing me here is not what I saw in the interview, or what they're showing me here is not what I saw in the CV. I'm not even going there. I'm not wasting my time. So I think it's so, so important. And another thing, sensitive or confidential information about a previous employer, you don't want to put that out there on your social media. So to me, your brand is so, so important. It is something that you should hold like as a fragile little egg. You know, it can break so easily, but it's something you need to nurture. It's something you need to be so proud of and something that you're going to work on. So what you really want to do is to take all your key passions, your personal attributes, your strengths, and roll them all into like this beautiful, clear, laser-focused message to the world to say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for. That branding is so, so important for you. And I think being able to say, this is who I am and what I do, know the answer to the questions like, what are your strengths? Where do you see yourself in the future? Obviously, we're going to cover that in the interview section, but just kind of know this is who I am and this is what I stand for and this is what I won't stand for. I think that's so important. There must be congruence between your platforms. So you might have the most beautiful LinkedIn profile. There you are in a suit looking fantastic. But then if we go onto your Instagram or onto your Facebook, then we see you partying up a storm and looking like a crazy person. So is there congruence between those platforms as well? So we always talk about it in marketing as like this beautiful silver thread that runs through everything, that kind of keeps everything connected. Is that working for you? I think that's so important. And then if you feel like, actually, I'm not interested, I've got my Facebook, it's my social life, then look at your privacy settings and make sure that a lot of it's private so that people aren't judging you. Then it's based on your people and that employers can't see it. I think that's very, very important. Maybe you might even want to consider having a professional one with some of your work on it, and then having your own private one that's only for your select few, if that could help you. And I really think that's so important. So we don't want our brand to cripple us. The next thing I'm talking about is your network. You know, years ago, some of you who might be as old as me might know that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But it's kind of changed over the years. It's now who knows, trusts, and respects you. So people are going to hire you, and they're going to say, you know, people are going to help you in your network if they feel that you're somebody, they know you, they trust you, they like you, they respect you. So it's so important that first you've got the brand. That's like the base. Then we've got to work the network. When I was at varsity, I had a friend, he used to make me laugh, but at the time I didn't really understand what he was doing. He had a little black book in his corner pocket. Yes, he was studying to be an accountant, but he had this little black book and a pen. And sometimes you'd say, oh, my uncle works here, or my friend, and he'd say, what's their name? What's their company? And he'd write it down in his little black book. And I look back in hindsight, and he was very intentional about his network. Often when I interview people who've been battling to find a job for a long time, I'll say, what have you done? And this is where I think people are going wrong. What they're doing is they're using the usual channels. They're going onto the job portals, they're going to agencies, they're applying for jobs. But when I ask them, who do you know? And one of the questions I ask people is, imagine taking a lever arch page, you know, it's you know, the margined paper, 1 to 30. And write who you know. Who do you know who is an employer? Who do you know who owns a business? Who do you know who's connected? Who do you know that your parents know, or your friends know, or your family knows? Who's in your friends and family that you haven't actually connected with? And then connect them. So you can contact them and say, hi, it's me. I'm looking for an opportunity, and I was wondering if you could help me. Let me tell you the power of personal referral. Now, you might have a friend who goes, listen, I don't have any vacancies in my company, but my friend does. So let me give an example. I've had a lot of people who contact me. I get CVs every single day, so many, hundreds every single week. But when somebody says, hi, Cindy, I know you, and I would like to do a personal recommendation of this person, I take them very, very seriously. Firstly, because that person's in my network. But secondly, they're doing a personal recommendation. To me, they're not going to waste their time on somebody who's absolutely useless. So I take them very, very seriously. But then there's also another thing. A lot of people are saying, you know what, I'm looking for a job and it's all about the money. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's about a foot in the door. It's about, do you mind if I come in and have a cup of coffee? Do you mind if I come in and shadow? Do you mind, are there internships? You know, so it could be little things, or even these questions. Do you mind if I pick your brain? Could I phone you? Could I have a Zoom call with you for 10 minutes? I have a question to ask about your industry. You at the top of your industry, can you give me some advice on how I can start or navigate the course in this industry? You know, it's amazing how people are prepared to help you if you ask the right questions. But I find a lot of people say, I need a mentor, and then they leave it at that. Why not ask that one question? How, you know, and so you want to start basically accumulating a list of contacts of people that you know, could help you. But here's the thing, how can you help them? So one of the things I learned last year as a business person, and I learned this only last year, was create a list of 25 key individuals that are key to your future success. These are people who are highly networked, they're your top clients, they're people who refer you. But imagine you as a job seeker doing that. And instead of saying, who can I ask? You don't ask, you help them. So imagine if you said, oh gosh, you know, I actually wrote a really cool article. Let me send it to this person. Or wait, I can connect this person with that person. And I think that would really, really be of value to that person. So it's not about what can I get? It's what can I give? So I think that's a really cool philosophy that a lot of people don't understand, and they don't work it too well. So a couple of things you can do that list of who you know, start connecting with people, intentionally connect with people. So you might say, well, I'm in the finance game. So you might say, well, I want to, on LinkedIn, I want to join forums. I want to join groups of people. Maybe that's people who've done CAs, or people who've done CIS, or people who've done cost accounting. There are so many interest groups. So join them, not just join them. It's not about being passive. It's like, how can I get involved? Maybe I'll write a comment. Maybe I'll offer to help. So just be that person who's actively showing up and positioning yourself. Now, I know it's a lot easier when we can meet in person. There are so many beautiful networking events and opportunities, but online there are still so many opportunities where you can actually show up and showcase who you are to the world. Have you offered to do a talk at an organization? Many of you on this call would be fantastic at talking for an hour on your subject. Think about it. How could you position yourself out there? How could you write a really awesome blog article that stands out? So it's not just nice and sweet and mediocre, but it's outstanding. I mean, these are ways in which we start creating a portfolio and we start positioning ourselves and putting our best foot forward. And I think use social media to your advantage as well. I belong to quite a few groups on LinkedIn, and I connect with people. I try and see how I can help people every single day. So remember, networking isn't about going to an event and listening to a speaker. They say it's not called net eat or net sit, it's called network. And it's about giving, not taking. So that, you know, that saying, it's give and take, not take and give. So in life, how can I give? How can I add value? Who can I help? So, I mean, over the last week or two, through my charity, I've had so many people say, I'm unemployed, I'm available. I want to come and help. I want to meet people. I want to grow my circle. And I think that's fantastic. It's so cool that they're doing that. So also, if you look at it, I want you to look at, if you are a student at, say you're studying at Regent, maybe you are working in a company, and maybe it's not your ideal job, but you are also networking every single day. You are connecting with other people. And if you could just see it as this concept of the emotional bank account. So let's just say you suddenly get a job and you're working as an accounts person. Okay, nothing fancy, but you've got this job as an accounts person and you join a department. Between you and every other person in that department, there's something called an emotional bank account. There's a debit and a credit. So when you walk in and you go, hi, let me help you. I'm eager to learn. Can I make you a cup of coffee? Can I do some filing for you? How can I help you? And you show up and you smile and you compliment and you're helpful. All of a sudden, you're building emotional credits. So that one day when you say, actually, I need a favor, people go, no problem. But I know so many people who don't do that at work. They'll be waiting for somebody else to extend the hand of friendship. They're not going in every day to say, how can I make a difference? And I love that question. What kind of company would it be if everyone in the company was just like me? Would it be an amazing company, or would it be kind of mediocre? And there's another very telling question. If we were to start our company again, who would we take with us and why? You want to be that person that if you work in a company, they say, we'll definitely take you with. You're such an asset to the company. And I think during the last year, we've seen a lot of people not be taken with the company because the companies had to cut. And it's been really, really a terrible time for so many people. But we want those people who are adding such value every day, that there's no day off in terms of adding value. There's no day off in terms of giving. And that's how we grow our network. So for me, on a Sunday night, I plan my whole week ahead with all my different entities. And one of the questions I ask myself every single week, a few things I ask myself, but who helped me last week that I have to say thank you to? Often that slips through the cracks. Who can I sincerely compliment or encourage this week? I know it sounds like a crazy thing. There's lots of people in need of that. What am I going to do this week to push the lever the most in my brand? What positive message can I send the world this week? That question every morning, what's my purpose going to work? It's not just, oh no, it's Monday, I hate Mondays. It's about what's the value I add, going into work this week. And how can I add value? How can I do something for somebody this week? Not with the intention of giving it back, but just being that awesome human. You do that day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, and soon you've got an amazing brand. And I love that saying, live in such a way that if anyone spoke badly of you, no one would believe him. Isn't that an amazing brand to have? So if you look at your network, it can be so many people. You never burn bridges. I love that saying about, you always want to leave so that you can return. You don't want to, but you want to leave that if you ever needed to, that employer would say, I'd happily have you back. Those are the questions we as hiring people are asking. So it's your friends, it's your family, it's your parents, it's your connections. It's things like your church group. It's, if you're a parent, it's your connections at the school. I used to be part of a tennis club, a book club, a wine club. All those people are your connections. and they're all saying something about you. So you want them to say good things. And I think that's so, so important. So there's a saying, your network equals your net worth. So how big is your network? Are you working it? You know, and I think that's such an important thing. And there's another saying, poor people look for work. The richest people build networks. So they understand the value of having people that they're connected to. So that if they need a favor, they've already done the work of actually making deposits into other people's emotional bank accounts, not just in your workplace, in society, in life. So you want to become that go-to person. You want to become that referrer. You want to be a volunteer. And in a team, you want to stand out. Now remember that when an employer is recruiting, let's just say an employer is looking for an MBA grad with 5 years experience. You might be just like the other people. So imagine that employer now asking you, or the hiring person asking you the question, why should we hire you? You've got to be so self-aware. You've got to be so clear on your brand value, on the fact that you're actually adding extra value. You can't say, because the other people are terrible. You don't even know who they are. But you've got to know what the company wants, and you've got to know why you stand out. And you've got to have the confidence to say, I think I'd be an amazing hire, and these are the reasons. So Inga, I'm going to revert back to you. Time is flying, and I know there are quite a lot of questions. So I hope you've taken a few little tips on branding and networking on how to make yourself, more employable going forward.
Thank you, Cindy, for that interesting webinar. There are a few questions in the chat that we'll take. For the questions that we don't get to, we will be sending out a Q&A via email to all the attendees. So the first question that really interests me is, what should a marketable CV look like? Now, for me, Cindy, this is my personal pet little item that I follow on social media and on LinkedIn. I often see the trend on LinkedIn, people saying, my CV does not get seen by a human. And a lot of people don't realize the applicant tracking systems are screening out CVs through the use of AI, artificial intelligence. These systems are programmed to pick up on certain keywords and phrases. So without going into too much of the detail, because we'll cover that in the CV writing webinar for all the attendees, very briefly, what should a marketable CV look like to get past the applicant tracking systems?
So I think, there are some lovely templates that one can use that are more modern. I think the most important thing for me when I'm looking at it is that it's easy to read, that it's very, very short, that no more than 3 pages. And what we also want is your most recent employment first. So what some people are doing is they're starting off when they were a cashier, or, and they're working their way up to manager, and it has to be the other way around. A small little photo would be great. A little section. So it's almost like you would imagine it's like a brochure. It's so no longer that old CV line after line after line, but maybe little sections where it's like my strengths. What am I passionate about? My hobbies. A section on your, and you can do that so well in a 1-pager, especially if you don't have loads and loads of experience. So I think it's got to catch the eye. It's got to look like it's been designed. And I know that sounds crazy because some people are saying, I don't have money. But even if you don't have money to make it pretty, as long as it's free from errors, so important, that it's easy to read, and that, it's just covering all the bases. There's no gaps, and you don't, it's funny, but we type CVs for a living. And our biggest thing is that when we are sending a CV to a client, they must never do this. They must never frown, because we've got all the answers. So it's reasons for leaving. We've covered gaps in employment. We've covered, there's no questions because it's all covered there. This is what I'm looking for. This is why I'm looking for it. This is why I left this company. And what we're looking for is we're looking for progression. So we want your job, you started off as a cashier, then you maybe went to reception, then you went to accounts clerk, then you went to debtors clerk, and then bookkeeper, then financial manager, and then financial director. We want to see progression. We want to see a history of achievements, and we don't want to see negativity. And examples are personal reasons for leaving jobs, to be discussed in the interview, where it looks like the person's full of drama. People don't want to see that. you know, just showing, and if you've got great results, put the results in. A lot of people don't put results. And one thing that's a deal breaker, we don't ever say presently, like under qualification, if you're presently studying something, say presently studying, because sometimes people don't understand. They say BCom, meanwhile, they're only doing their first year, but they've said qualification BCom. That's a complete and utter deal breaker. If you go for an interview and they work out that it was an error of omission, you didn't mean to lie, but you used the wrong wording. So that's not a qualification. It would be present studies, first year BCom. So I think, you know, there's so many little elements, but I think what we need to do is send out a lovely example of a template. I think that is a great idea.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. That's one of the next questions from one of our attendees. Can you please show us some CV templates? So I'm going to invite you all to visit our platform, connect.regent.ac.za. We will be posting CV templates. We've also had requests to review CVs and assist, and we've reviewed a few CVs. So we will be posting CV templates on our platform. And in detail, in our second webinar, Cindy will cover the CV writing, your CV as a sales brochure. Then another very interesting question, Cindy, is how do we answer psychometric assessments? Now, there are various types of psychometric assessments. I've been both an applicant and a hiring manager, so I've seen both sides of the fence. And when I was an applicant, I too would be a bit frozen sometimes with these psychometric assessments. They seem quite daunting. But there really are simple ways and tricks, and one can practice to correctly answer. What advice would you give to somebody who's a bit perturbed about doing a psychometric assessment?
Inga, I'd say the first thing is to try and be as relaxed as possible. I find so many people create skewed profiles because what they're trying to do is not answer how they truly are, but how they think the employer wants them to be. And there's always this validity thing. So it'll come out that the person skewed it or they try to manipulate it. So I think it is about sort of answering, how am I? So I would say it's about being prepared. It's about being calm, free from worry and stress and that, because I know a lot of people who get, literally they get so upset and stressed that they can't think straight. So I think it's about being in a place where you're not interrupted, giving yourself the time and the space to do it. Don't rush it. Don't try and bluff you somebody else. Put your best foot forward, but it is ostensibly you, not somebody else, you know. And, you know, at the end of the day, we also want to get, I know a lot of people say, I'll take any job, I just need a job. But the reality is you will only really excel in a job where it's a good fit, where it's work that we talk high skill plus high joy equals job satisfaction. So, you know, I don't think there's ways to kind of get around psychometric assessments. I don't think there's like little hints and tricks to kind of trick them. They've got built-in validity tests and assess, you know. So sometimes I've seen people where they've said this is not a valid test. This is not a valid result because the person tried to manipulate it. So I think the most important thing is don't try and manipulate it. Just be yourself. You've got one shot, and they're quite expensive assessments. So I think it's important. I think the work needs to be done before, because a lot of those assessments, it's about self-awareness as well. So do you know yourself? Do you know your strengths? Do you know your weaknesses? Do you know who you are and what you want? I think that's an important part.
Thank you. So I would encourage all applicants to actually do their research. Google, you'll find information on psychometric assessments, and some websites even offer practice sessions. So besides the personality profiles, which is a natural question and answer process, your first answer is normally the correct one. I myself would struggle with the shapes and the circles. My eye could never spot the pattern, but eventually I trained myself to spot the pattern. So I would encourage any applicants that's going for psychometric assessments, beside the personality one, when you're faced with the cognitive profile, where they give you a series of shapes or patterns, and you have to spot the difference or spot the neck shape, it's possible to train your brain by doing a few practice sessions. So you don't go into a psychometric assessment cold and take fright. You know what to expect.
Makes sense.
Then we've got time for one last question, Cindy. from an applicant, also very interesting. I went for an interview. I met all the minimum requirements. The regret reason given to me was that I might be too young for the position. Now, when I was the interviewer, I would make sure I gave feedback that would help the applicant. But because there are hundreds and hundreds of applicants, the feedback might not be as concise as it used to be. What advice would you give to someone who's possibly maybe feeling rejected by this kind of feedback? How do they pick themselves up and learn?
It's so difficult because I think this is the universal cry. There are so many candidates who are saying, you know, all I need is 2 years experience. And everybody's saying, well, hire me when I've got 2 years, but nobody's going to give me the 2 years. So I think my advice to anybody is when you're applying for a job, especially in those first couple of years, when you are young, don't go after the money, go after the experience. Because once you've got that experience in your CV and under your belt, you can then go after the money. So I find that a lot of candidates, sometimes they appear young, and it could just be a dress code thing. It could be just a maturity thing where they are unprepared for the answers, little things like that are getting in their way. So, you know, I mean, I remember I was 20, straight out of varsity. I had a full 3-year degree and I was only 20 going for my interview. And I remember them saying, what 5 qualities would make a good recruiter? And I just sat there and I hadn't even thought of it. And you know, I had my frame of reference was quite limited. So I remember them asking me, can you handle pressure? And I said, yes, I've been a waitress. And the lady's face, you could tell that she was so unimpressed by my lack of you know, gravitas. But I think the point of view, it is hard for young people. It is hard. But I think it's also important to say, but this is what I'm doing to make me stand out. So yes, I'm young, I'm 20, I don't have a lot of experience, or 25, whatever it is. But you know what, this is what I'm trying to do to basically elevate myself. So this is what I'm doing to stand out. These are the things I've done that my peers haven't done. I get mentorship from this person. I've done this course. I'm reading extra things in my spare time. I'm, you know, doing all these extra things. Or even being that person who says, you know what, I'm not here for the money. I'm here for the experience. Not to say you're going to intentionally put yourself out there to be exploited, but to say, you know what, I'm prepared to shadow. I'm prepared to do an internship. I'm prepared to prove myself over a period of a few months to show that I actually have the drive. Yes, I might be young. You're absolutely right. I am young, but I'm driven. I'm hungry. I'm humble, and I'm hardworking. Would you consider putting me on a 3-month contract to prove myself? And, you know, it's amazing how sometimes when somebody shows some fight in them, you know, and they show, you know what, you're absolutely right. So also, to be honest with you, it's not really a legal basis on which to say to a candidate, you're not right. You know, it's different if you're not experienced, or, you know, you don't have the skills, or you know, you haven't worked on this. So to say you're too young, it seems like it doesn't sound like professional recruitment either, because a lot of young people have maturity and a lot of people who are older don't. So I think that it might have been an easy way out for them to not give you the real reason. But also, if you have an interview afterwards, just analyze it. How did I appear? Did I dress the part? Was my CV right? Was I prepared? Did I have questions prepared? You know, did I come across as a top level candidate? Sometimes, you know what, you did nothing wrong. Sometimes it was just a case of you were second. So you did really, really well, but somebody just pipped you at the post, and you can't necessarily internalize that. And that's something I say to job seekers all the time. Don't personalize rejection. A lot of the time, it's got nothing to do with you. Sometimes employers change their minds. Sometimes they've realized, even before you walked in, that they've decided not to hire. Sometimes they've realized that the job's changed. So you go and you do your very, very best. You meet what they said they needed, but what they said they needed has actually changed since you walked in the door, since the day before when they booked you in. So there's so many reasons why people aren't being recruited. But the nice thing about being young, if somebody said you're too young, you say, well, I've got so much energy, you should want me. You know, I've got so much enthusiasm. So I think not without sounding rude and precocious, but just sort of saying, you know, yes, you're right, I am young. And I'm sure you also started when you were young and somebody gave you a chance. I'm looking for a chance, but I'm also, you know, looking for an opportunity to excel. And, you know, I can go the extra mile, and this is why. So I think not taking everything lying down, not just being a little mouse, but actually, if somebody says something in an interview and that, you know, to say, well, actually, can I give you my point of view on this? Yes, I am young, but since when is youth negative, in terms of a role? You don't want to be too challenging and cheeky, but it's quite nice to show a little bit of spirit and spunk and to show a little bit of confidence. Confidence is an incredibly attractive quality, and desperation is an incredibly unattractive quality. So you want to get the desperation out, and you want to show your confidence and your enthusiasm. And you know what I love is when I interview people and say, why do you want this job? And their eyes shine and they get excited and they tell me why they want the job and what they're going to do. And, you can see that they're invested. And I've seen so many other candidates where there's no excitement. They just really want a salary. They don't even want a job. They just want a salary. And I think employers are seeing through that. So you want to stand out. You want to say, I want to grow my career. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I'm about. And I want to prove it every single day. And cream rises to the top. So if you are exceptional, if you've been exceptional in the past, that's the most awesome thing. You will be again. So yeah, I just want to encourage you. I think Regent are doing a wonderful job with this series. These are practical questions. These are practical things. It's not about high-level academics. It's about putting that into into practice, and that's what we're here for. So Inga, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
So thank you, Cindy, for a very interesting webinar. I look forward to the next one, CV as a sales brochure. I invite everyone to join us on connect.regent.ac.za for networking and further useful tips. We'll be posting CV templates, and you can find wonderful mentors on this platform that you can reach out to and that can assist you with networking, opening doors, opening opportunities. So please use the tips from this webinar and reach out. It's my absolute passion to grow and develop people, to assist with CVs, to open doors, to network. I've been given so many opportunities in my life and my career, Cindy. It's my absolute pleasure to pay it back and to assist, especially the youth going forward and who are starting out really on the cusp of their careers. So everyone, please join us, connect.regent.ac.za. We look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye, everyone, and stay safe. Thank you.